Hi ladies, are you wondering what to expect from breastfeeding between 1 and 6 months? Let's talk about breastfeeding between 1 and 6 months, as there doesn't seem to be quite as much information out there and perhaps not quite as many support systems either. To begin with, if you're looking for a good book or a good resource for reference, I would recommend this book here, Breastfeeding Made Simple, The 7 Natural Laws for Nursing Mothers, written by Kathleen Kendall-Tackett and Mohrbacher. And of course, if you would like to find out more about breastfeeding, click the subscribe and the notification button so that you're alerted when I next upload a video. One of the reasons for lack of information about breastfeeding between 1 and 6 months might be that in general, breastfeeding tends to get easier around the 6 weeks mark. A lot of the hard work is put in during the first 6 to 8 weeks when you're laying down the foundations and you're building your milk supply. And in this book that I just mentioned, there is a nice descriptive graph which shows that around the 6 weeks mark, breastfeeding starts to suddenly get easier, whereas with bottle feeding you still have to continue cleaning and sterilizing the equipment, the bottles and the teats, and you have to make up the formula, so the work is still more than with breastfeeding and continues to stay at a steady level. The high levels of oxytocin and prolactin which you have post-birth, they really help to switch on your milk-making cells for milk production. And by the end of your postpartum period, the first 6 to 8 weeks post-birth, if breastfeeding is going well, you will make on average around 750 to 1000 milliliters of milk per day. And this volume is what is going to be your average daily supply when you're exclusively breastfeeding for the next 6 months. It's not going to change a great deal, although baby will go through growth spurts at around 3, 4 and 6 months. During the first 4 months, weight gain is still quite rapid, with an average weight gain of 200 grams per week if breastfeeding is going well, and a lot of babies will have doubled their birth weight at around the 4 months mark. After that, weight gain is slowing down a little bit with an average weight gain of 113 to 142 grams per week. The WHO Child Health Growth Charts are usually the gold standard for charting infants' weights from birth to 5, and this helps to determine whether your baby's weight is within the normal range for their age. And I'm going to insert here a percentile chart for a boy and a girl. Babies will still need to feed quite frequently, on average around 8 times in 24 hours, but this may vary a little bit from baby to baby, and it also can depend a little bit on your milk storage capacity within your breasts. This has nothing to do with the size of your breasts, but rather with the amount of milk that your milk glands can hold. So some babies will be able to go a little bit longer between feeds, and other babies will have to feed more frequently. Your baby is likely though to become a more efficient feeder, unlike in the early days when feeds might have taken quite a long time. Baby has now gained weight and has become stronger and is likely to transfer milk in a shorter amount of time. And as baby gains head and neck control, he also becomes a more active participant in the breastfeeding relationship, where you may have needed to use a lot of props to prop yourself up with, or a special nursing chair. Latching on will now get a lot easier without these additional supports, and this will make feeding out and about easier as well. Your exclusively breastfed baby should continue to have a urine output of around 6 to 8 wet nappies per day. Stooling pattern for an exclusively breastfed baby can change a little bit around the 6 weeks mark, where you expected your baby to have at least 3 yellow seedy breast milk stools. This can now change to sometimes only every other day, and some babies only go once a week. And this is still considered as normal stooling pattern as long as your baby is not showing any signs of discomfort or constipation, and that when they go, they produce a large amount. It is actually quite unusual for a breastfed baby to become constipated, and stooling consistency is still quite liquidy with seedy bits in it, and the color should remain yellow. As baby's gut matures, your baby is likely to be a little bit less fussy and will probably have fallen into a sleeping and feeding pattern. But having said that, around the 4 months mark, a lot of developmental milestones happen, such as your baby may have started to roll over, or your baby may have started teething now that they're 4 months old. And that may mean that they are more frequently waking at night time again. This is sometimes also called the 4 months sleep regression. In general, night feeding and night waking are very common throughout the first year of life, and they are considered as normal. There are studies that have reported that some breastfed babies actually take in as much as 25% of their milk intake at nighttime. Babies may now also become more distracted during daytime feeds as they start realizing that they're their own person separate from you, and they take more an interest in their environment and what's going on around them. And this can make daytime feeds challenging as well. To keep distractions to a minimum, you could try strategies such as keeping noise to a minimum, maybe going into a quiet room, dimming the lights. Perhaps if you're somewhere out and about, using a nursing cover, although some babies don't like being covered and rather kick the nursing cover off. You might like to try walking around and rocking your baby as you're feeding them. This may help to keep them focused on breastfeeding. If you need some time away from your baby, you may have to attend an appointment, or you may have to run some errands, or you may be planning to return to work. Whatever the reason might be, if you would like someone else to be able to give your baby express breast milk in a bottle, then it's a good idea to introduce your baby to the idea of a bottle around the 6 to 8 weeks mark, as when they're older, let's say around 3 to 4 months, they really prefer the breast and they prefer you, and it will be harder then to get them used to taking a bottle. After the first 6 to 8 weeks, your risk for developing blocked ducts and mastitis is decreasing as your hormones and supply will have regulated. Nevertheless, it is still possible to develop blocked ducts and mastitis beyond the 6 weeks mark, especially if your baby suddenly starts to sleep longer stretches at night, or starts to go longer between feeds, or if you've worn tight clothing, or if you've been baby wearing for a prolonged period of time. Just be conscious of your breasts, and if you notice any blocked ducts, treat them early with massage and frequent feeding to avoid mastitis. Some babies start teething around 4 months and start to bite or chew the breasts and nipples, but I think teething is a whole topic in itself and deserves another video at a later time. Overall, breastfeeding between 1 and 6 months really is your reward period after putting in all the hard work during the early days. Most mums now enjoy breastfeeding as they don't have to worry about preparing solids yet, especially when they're out and about. And if breastfeeding is going well and your baby is gaining weight well, You will not need to offer your baby anything else but your breast milk in the first 6 months, and your baby will thrive on it.